Hi everyone, good afternoon, good morning. And so today we'll be starting with Python, and the agenda for today's session would be to the introduction to Python. Then we'll go ahead with uh, we check that what are the differences between Python and other programming languages. Then we'll talk about the uh, how you can install Python, how you can install the few of the IDEs of Python, what are the different IDEs which we use for Python, what are the Python variables, keyword, data types, operators, conditional statements, loops, data structures, that is set, list, dictionaries, and tuples. We'll talk about the Lambda functions in Python. We'll talk about the functions in Python, the file handling, exception handling, iterators, generators, modules, and few of other things. So a lot to cover in for Python, and all this would be like we'll have a demo and these things for everything. So we'll show you that how the things are running, and based on that we can start with the things now. Okay. So first of all, if I start with the Python, so okay. So before that, can everyone think that if you have any prior experience with any of the uh, like any of the coding language or any of the programming language? Okay, so it seems that every one of you have the prior experience, so it's like cool to understand and know the things. So that's good. Okay, so before that, we all know that we all have experience on Java, on C, C++, Shell script, or any other programming language. And these programming languages, like they have some or other, the concepts and the terminologies are same in most of the programming language. The major thing which comes is about the difference. Okay, is about the difference of the syntax and the few of the other logics and these things. But apart from that, whatever the programming logic or whatever the code logic you have to write, that remains the same, and just you have to follow that particular syntax and you can use that. So Python is also one of the programming language which is basically the open source language. With open source I mean that it is a language which comes like free of cost. There is no cost involved to download this language, to download this Python, as well as there is no license or something which has to be like integrated with this. Apart from that, python is Python is both a general purpose programming language as well as a scripting language. Now, what do I mean by general purpose programming language and scripting language? Means the general purpose or programming language means that you can use Python for your web development, for your full end-to-end development. Like you use your Java, you use your C or other languages. Similarly, you can use Python for your programming, like end-to-end programming, like when you are doing a web development. So whatever the front-end code you have written, the front-end code you can write in HTML, CSS, and all this. And in backend, instead of JS or JavaScript, you can use the Python as a backend language, or the server side or the client side language. Now, the other part is the scripting language. So scripting language means that you, when you write scripts, so you don't write the end-to-end program or end-to-end automation. What you basically do here is that you write a small function. Okay, you write small functions, small snippets, and you can reuse those snippets in your other code as well for the script. So let's say that if you are doing some task to perform a cleanup activity of any particular folder or any particular directory, or let's say you are doing the cleanup of a logs, so you will write a small script rather than writing the entire end-to-end code, development code for that. So that is basically the scripting language. So Python is both. It can be, you can use it as a programming language as well as you can use it as a scripting language. Now we see that it is an interpreted language also. So before like going with the going on the exact definition, I would like to tell that what all are the different, what all are the features, kind of, you can say that, for Python. Now interpreted language means that when you compile the code or do the code, so there are two things, like is one is the compile, compiler, with the help of a compiler, you compile the entire code, which basically compiles or which basically executes your entire code, and at the end you get the all the list of the errors will be listed. Whereas, but when any particular language is an interpreted language, then what happens that each and every line of a program will be executed, and the particular line, if it has any error or some other syntax error or any other errors, so your program will halt at there only. Okay, it will stop at there only. It will not go to the next line, or the compiler will not read the next line. So interpreted means executing the code line by line, and if at any line you are getting the error, it will stop there itself and will tell you that okay, there is the error, go and resolve this, so that it can move to the next line. That's a great feature of a Python, because if you get the if your entire code is executed and you get list of 10 errors, sometimes it's become very difficult to understand that which line is causing the error, or at which due to which other line or due to which other things you are getting the errors. So due to all these reasons, interpreted language is good, and as you get you know exactly that at what line the error has been occurred. So we can define Python as Python is a general purpose programming language as well as a scripting language. Okay, it is an open source language, has a large open source community. If you have any questions, any doubts, sometimes when you are doing and you want to, like, there are a lot of communities where you can get the answers for your queries. Now, as your other languages like Java and C++, they are based on the OOPS concept or object-oriented programming language concept. So similarly, Python also works on the object-oriented concept. What do I mean by object-oriented is that everything in Python is treated as object. Means for everything at the back end in Python, classes are written. And when you write a class, class is what? Class is a blueprint of your object. So all the objects will be created for each and every class. We'll see how these objects are there and what all these objects are there in few hours. We'll see about that. Now, let's talk about few of the features of Python. So Python is very easy language. It's why it is very easy, because like other languages, like what you basically do, like if you have to define any variable or if you have to do any sort of you have to assign any variable value to any variable, you write int a equal to 10 or float a equal to 20.0, like that. Means you basically give it a data type, that what is the data type of this particular variable, and and based on that it will accept a value. But in Python this is not the case. You just write a equal to 10 or you write a equal to 20 point any number. So what happens that Python has this capability that it automatically detects the data type. You don't need to define any data type. You don't need to put any delimiter at the end of the line. It automatically checks that okay, there is a new line now, and it will read that new line. In other languages, in JavaScript, if you are not putting a semicolon after your variable declaration, it will throw you an error that semicolon is missing. But in Python, there is no such concept. You don't have to define any delimiter or these things. That's the reason it is very easy to learn and very easy to use, because you don't have to remember much of the things, you don't have to define much of the things, and you write it as a normal English language. Interpreted language we already discussed. Open source we discussed, that's a free of cost, no licensing and all these things are required. Then we talk about large standard library. So almost for each of the language we have different libraries or different modules or the packages which are supported along with it. Let's say that for date time you have a different module or a different library. For the to make the connection to any particular database, you have a different library. To make the connection to the to read the CSV files or to read the text files, you have a different library. So similarly in Python also we have different libraries, and there are lots of libraries, more than hundreds of libraries, which makes your task very easy. Large community support, there are a lot of good communities and good things. Apart from Stack Overflow, there are a lot of other places where you can go and you can check post your queries and you will get the output in few hours. extensible. It can be easily integrated with any other programming language. You can integrate it with Java, you can integrate it with JavaScript, you can integrate with the shell script, you can integrate it with .NET, C++, any of the programming languages which you have worked on. You can integrate Python easily with any of the language. Now it is a cross-platform language, so you once you can take your code into any of the platform, whether it's a Windows, whether it's a Mac, whether it's Ubuntu, whatever it is. You can take your code into any of the language and you can basically run your code into that environment. So that is how it is helpful for the cross-platform language. Any questions here?
No.
Sachin, the last thing, like you said, you can take the code in any language and use it. So
Any
what does
platform, whether it's a Windows operating system, whether it's a Linux operating system, or anywhere. Like in Java, you take the class file only, right? Otherwise, if you take the source code, you have to compile it again and here do that. Here, there is no such concept.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I talk about the difference between the other programming languages and Python, so it is more user friendly. One of the most popular language being used widely across the industry these days, and one of the most preferable language because of its flexibility and because of the performance and these things. It is like mostly preferred language, and that's the reason if you go for any particular role these days. So although they might ask you that, okay, if you know Java, if you know .NET, if you know any other language, it's good. But if Python is an add-on advantage for you to have this, because these days mostly you are working with data, you are working with lot of other big sizes of CSV file and these things, and Python has a great capabilities and great modules which allows you to work with those large sets of data very easily, as well as you can write the scripts also in a very easy manner. So it is more stable, and in terms of performance it is good in the execution and those things for your code. Okay, let's talk about the installation of a Python. So I have already installed Python in my system, and if I go to python.org, so if you go to python.org, and this is the official Python site, and if you click on downloads here, so you can download this latest version for your Windows, that is the 3.8.3, and after you have downloaded, you will get the exe file, and as soon as you have downloaded it, that's it. You don't have to do anything. You just click next, accept the license agreement, agree to their policies basically, and your Python will be installed. You will get an option there to select the environment variable. So you just check box that thing. It will automatically set the environment variable for you. Like you manually have to go and set the path and these things for Java, but these days you don't need to do that. Also, it will already be done. Now, once you have installed the Python, go to your command prompt, just type python -- version, and you will get to know that what is it your Python installed or not. If this command is not working, it means your Python is not installed correctly, or there could be the reason that your environment variable is not set up correctly. My Python is being installed in C program files Python, but I can run it from any of the any other path. The reason, because my environment variable is already set. My environment variable is set, and I can run it from any of the place, and this is how I can run it by doing python -- version, and this will tell me that my Python has been installed. Now, apart from that, you also get with Python one of the Python console. If you type Python and you get the Python console, which will basically tell you that what is the version installed, and after that you will get the prompt to do anything. So if I want to do anything, so I can print anything here. Okay, if I want to if I want to do any other operations, I can do here. Okay, but we'll discuss about all this, that how you can do all these things or not. Now, this is about the installation of Python. Like, you have installed a programming language, and definitely your large set of codes and these things, you won't be running it from here. It is like good for interpreted kind of thing, like you have to run one by one anything or line by line anything. You can definitely go ahead and you do with that. But you should need some environment where you can run the code, where you can do the things and such. Now there are a couple of IDEs, there are a couple of Python itself provided has the couple of IDEs or environment where you can go and you can run it. The one is the Anaconda. So Anaconda is the one of the Anaconda Navigator, which basically gives you list of tools or list of IDEs through which you can run or through which you can launch that IDEs and you can run the Python. In industry, mostly people prefer to go ahead with Visual Studio only because people are you familiar with Visual Studio UI and these things. So what you can do that you can extend, you can like from your Visual Studio, there is a plugin. Just if you search for that Python plugin, and you can run Python codes in your Visual Studio also. I myself prefer PyCharm IDE. This looks like similar to Eclipse. This is known as PyCharm, PyCharm. So it looks like similar to Eclipse. So I prefer PyCharm for my development purpose and these things. As you work in Eclipse or Visual Studio, so it is similarly provided by Python. You can download this also. Now, apart from that, you can install plugin in Eclipse and you can use that. You can use IntelliJ. This is one of the IntelliJ. These are some of the companies are using IntelliJ for Java and these also. In fact, you can run Python codes also here. So there are a lot of IDEs and it is completely your choice or your company choice, whatever they are preferring. It's not like that, okay, any of them has whatever there are differences between the UI, there are differences between the features of that particular software or that particular tool, but there is no such difference with respect to the running your code and exit or getting the output. Now, this is Anaconda Navigator here. So if you install this Anaconda, like you have to go to anaconda.org. You will go to anaconda.com/download and you can install it. And then you can check that by using the conda -v version that whether it has been installed or not. But once you have installed it, you will get this Anaconda Navigator. And from here, you can install your Jupyter Notebook or you can install your Jupyter Lab. I'll tell you what are these, or Visual Studio or Spider, and other things are also there. So this is basically a kind of, you can say that the different set of tools are being provided in it. Lot of people are using or they prefer Jupyter Notebook these days. We also have set up everything in Jupyter Notebook only. And when we basically provide the trainings and these things, we find it more comfortable to do it in the Jupyter Notebook because Jupyter Notebook is a web-based Python environment where from your Chrome, it runs on your local host, or if you want to host it on a cloud or anywhere, you can run it from there also. And it is basically a kind of a notebook where you can write your code and these things. So mostly data science people and all these people, they prefer for Jupyter Notebook. How does it looks like? Let me show you. So yeah, so this is a Jupyter Notebook environment where once you install, you see that it runs on your local host, and like once you have installed it from Anaconda Navigator, so you will just find it. Just you double click here and it will run it for you. Now this Jupyter Notebook is nothing. It is basically a cell-based concept. Like you see, this is one cell, this is second cell, and similarly we have cells. Here you can write your this documents and these things also. Okay, you can write your text-based content as well as you can write your code also. Like this is how you can write your code by instead of putting comments and all, you can just put these markup languages and you can write your text base, and here you can write the codes. Whatever codes you will be writing, that cell will be treated as an input and you will get the output accordingly. Now the best part is that whatever the Python code you save with PyCharm or with Visual Studio or with any other, the extension of that code is .py. .py, whereas like you have for Java or class files are there. For JavaScript we have .js. For shell script we have .sh. Similarly for Python we have .py. But for these notebooks we have the extension as .ipynb. Okay, .ipynb. But you can download these notebook from here as a Python download as .py, download as PDF, whatever way you want to download it. You can download these things. Okay, and you can insert the cells using these shortcut keys, and you can run the code from here. Okay, this is the about the IDs and these things, but like there is one more way through which you don't have to install Python, you don't have to do anything, and it will run your code. Ideally that is not the preferable approach, because if you are not understanding how the Python is installed, how the things are in there, but if you really don't want to do much of hard work, it's a good for you. So Google has provided its own notebook which runs on the Google cloud itself and on Google engine, and it's basically known as Google Collab notebook. Okay, and if you click here on this Google Collab notebook, so this is basically the exactly the same, and you don't here you don't have to install Python or do anything. It will automatically perform the task and do the activities for you. Okay, means you can write the Python directly here without installing it in your system, and all these codes will be shared in your Google Drive with the folder named as Collab Notebooks. With the folder named as Collab Notebooks, all these files will be shared there in your Drive. It will be automatically saved, so you can go ahead and you can locate it in Drive. You can upload any notebook, you can use this, you can save a copy in GitHub, and lot of features are there with this also. It has its own engine, it has its own everything, so you don't have to worry about all those that what to. Now it's completely your choice, and that whatever you want to prefer. So I would say you can prefer for go for the notebook also, you can go for the PyCharm IDE also. Whatever you want to do, environment you want to run it, you can run it. Any questions here?
Hi, Sachin. I wanted to ask this Jupyter and Jupyter notebook that you showed in the first slide, where you went to Anaconda and it had many options, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here. So instead of this, if I have Atom installed as a environment or a editor, is that
Fine.
okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
no issues. Atom is
Okay.
also fine.
Okay. So I'll be installing Python and Atom as it is there. So no need to
Exactly.
install. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Sachin,
Hmm.
if I want to use this Python in Visual Studio,
Yes.
then also I need these things, this Jupyter notebook and
Nothing, you don't need anything. Then also what you can do is that, so I have like most of the tools installed, because like I do a lot of different codings and stuff. So for this you will just you have to go to the plugins basic,
okay,
and in the plugin, so like here I have installed Docker. So like I run Docker codes, and like this is like something I've done for Docker here. So I have done Docker codes and these things from Visual Studio itself. So you can just go to settings, and you can like basically in the extension you can search for Python.
okay,
See here you are getting the Python for Visual Studio Code. You install it and it will be installed for you.
okay. And then directly I can write the code.
Right.
Nothing else is required. Okay.
Nothing you need to do. Like definitely Python has to be installed in your system,
Yeah.
because it will take it. But not.
Okay.
Okay, so this is all about the basics, that how you can install Python, how you can use the IDs and these steps. And this is, we are going to, let's start with the few of the things of Python. Now Python has two versions basically. Okay, one was Python 2 and another was Python 3. Now with that they have their different sub versions and these things which came into market, and there are small differences between that. One of the, I would not say major, but one of the important difference which was there with Python, which is there with Python 2 and 3 is that in Python 2, after the print statement, you don't have to specify parentheses. Okay, if you just write print hello, it will print in Python 2. But in Python 3, you have to specify this thing. You have to specify this parenthesis. Otherwise, it will give you error, as we saw the error above. Okay, that missing parenthesis thing. It says, did you mean print hello? So this is one of the difference. There are a lot of other difference. We'll study about all those differences as we go ahead and we see the code. Now, apart from that, you can like these installation steps of the other things. What is the Jupyter notebook, how it works, all this theoretical part is written here. So we will be sharing all these things with you and you can look into that. So we know that there are different data types. One is the integer, then we have float, then we have Boolean, we have strings, we have complex number, that is the real and imaginary numbers, and these steps. So we can use any of these and we can make use of like we know that these data types basically tells that what would be the range of integer will be till up to 0 to 65,535 and float will have some other range and all those things. And you can use those steps. Now let's see how we basically define the variables in Python. Now, what is variable? Variable is something which basically identify or acts as an identifier for in your Python. Okay. Now, for you, what will be your identifier? Like for you, your identifier will be your name. Your name can be your variable. Okay. For me, Sachin will be my identifier. Okay. Although it can be duplicated, there would be 100 of people with such a name, but definitely for me, my name is my identification. Okay. Or for me, any other whatever is I want to put, that will be my identification. Similarly, in Python also we have the variables which acts as a identification. Now there are certain rules for assigning these variables. The one is that it should not contain space. You should use underscore, as well as you should not contain any of the special characters. It should not start with numbers. And if you want to define any of this, so let's say that if you want to say that a is equal to 10, means a is what? This is my variable, and to this variable I have assigned a value as 10. So a is my variable, and to this variable I have assigned the value as 10. This equal to is what? This is my assignment operator. So to this I have assigned the value. So now here if I talk, this is, if I print a, it will basically print me 10. Okay. So you see that I got the value of a equal to 10. If I put a equal to 100, it will print me 100. So whatever value you want to assign, you can assign it. You see that I have not defined anything, that whether it's a float value, whether it's what integer value, whether it's a string value. Okay. Whatever you want to define, you can define it. Okay. And if you put any string value, anything, it will be working. There is no issue with that. Okay. Sorry. So now there are two types of variable. One is like the strongly typed variable, and other one is dynamic typing. Strongly typed means the variable for which you cannot change the value. Okay, that will be like you cannot reassign any value to that variable. But in dynamic typing, what does it mean? That you can reassign the value. Let's say here I have a variable name as my underscore dogs, and for which I have this particular value. So if I want to assign any other value here, I can assign any other value. Now, if you want to check, let's say this is this, and if I want to check that what kind of data type it is, there is a function in Python known as type, in which if you pass the argument as my dogs or the variable name as my dogs, this will tell you that what type of variable it is. If I put it 5, okay, and if I run it, it will give me integer. So type is a function to check what is the data type of the particular variable. Okay. So this is how like you can assign the variable and you can perform the operation like a equal to a plus 10, a plus equal to 10, a into equal to 2, and these things you can do and you can check the type. This is pretty much easy concept, as everyone know that how to assign a variable and use it. Just I wanted to tell you here about the type function, which is the important one. Any questions in variable, guys? Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about numbers. So numbers are what? Like there could be arithmetic number, there could be division numbers, and different types of numbers we have. And on those, uh, the numeric numbers, of decimal numbers, and these things, different type of numbers we have, and we can perform different operations on that. Like we can perform the basic arithmetic operation, we can perform the complex arithmetic operations, or a multiplication, division, and these kind of operations. So here in Python, like you don't have to do any some like 2-3 line of code, like where you have to write, okay, integer a equal to 2 plus 1 and then print a, like that. Here if you just write 2 plus 1, it will give you the output. 2 minus 1, it will give you the output. Accordingly, whatever you are writing, it will give the output to you for any of these things. Okay. Now we have, sometimes we get the requirement where we have the hexadecimal numbers, where we have the binary numbers and these things. So if you have those kind of numbers, and like if you want to convert something to hexadecimal number or binary numbers, you can use a function here as hex. Okay, this hex, and if you pass the value as whatever in it, it will tell you, it will give you the output as hexadecimal number. If you write a binary and if you pass this, it will give you the binary number. Similarly, for exponentials, you have POW, that is to calculate the power. For absolute value, you have absolute. For round, you have round. These are the small functions which you can use for your day-to-day operations. Any questions here?
No.
So let's talk about strings now. Strings is something which, if you enclose it in a single quotes or double quotes, anything, and that is known as a string. Okay. So whenever we have to define a string, you can enclose it in a single quote or it in a double quote. But if I have to write something like that, I am trainer for today, and if I put it again in this, okay, so can anyone tell me that will it give me an error or not? If I define any string equal to like this, so will it give it error or not? I want answer from Umang.
Yeah, it will give error.
Okay, so
we will have to put in double quotes and then single quote.
Right. So the reason, because it will think that, okay, this is one string, and after that we have not put anything, and it will give an error at this particular statement. So in these kind of scenarios, if you are putting a single quotes inside your string or these things, you should enclose it within the double quotes. Okay, you should enclose it within the double quotes so that you can get the you will not get any error. Okay. Now creating a string, I told that you can just define it in any particular way you want to, whatever the string. To print it again, like normal print statement, you will be using a print function. Now to calculate the length of a string, now we know that these strings, these work like an array in any other programming language. Like it will start here from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 till the end of the string. Okay, and it will count all the characters whatever are there, including your space also. It will treat as a one character, and it will give you length of the string. So length is a function in other programming language you have the function as length, but here it is length to calculate the length. If you want to print a specific character, you will be using s of 0, whatever the index value it is there. For h, index value is 0. For e, it is 1. For l, it is 2. For again l, it is 3. So if you want to print s of 0, it will give you h. S of 1, it will give you e. S of 2, it will give you l. Okay. So guys, I know that this is a very basic and all of you would be knowing all this, but from basics only we'll start and we'll be going to advanced concepts where you will see a lot of different things in Python now going forward. So these all are the this is known as string indexing in Python. Okay, this is known as a string indexing. Now even you can perform the slicing operations in Python. Slicing operation in Python, I mean that if you want to grab a particular part of a string, okay, if you want to grab a particular part of a string, so you can write it as like 1 colon, okay, 1 colon, that what it will do, like except the first index, it will print the entire string. So here you see the output that except the first index, that is h, it will print everything. If it is colon 3, grab up to everything up for the index, okay, except the third index. So except the one which is written before that, whatever is there, 0, 1, 2 index, whatever is there, it will grab all those values. If you just put a colon, so this is like going to extract everything. For last letter, -1, and grab everything but not the last letter, then colon -1. So these are few of the things which you do. And this slicing operator, basically the function, it goes like s, like start, and then you have end, and then you have a step. Means your starting position, that is from 0, and whatever you want to do with that, basically it goes with end -1. And step is like if you put 2, so what it will do, like it will start from 0th index, then it will go to 2nd index, then it will go to 4th index, like. So this is pretty much about strings.
Sachin, didn't understood the step 1. What was that?
Okay. So basically slicing function, what it has, that you like the function format is, let's say that if it is written as 1 colon, okay. So what is it, that ideally the syntax which it follows is start, your end -1, and your steps. So other things will be same, but here if you write 1 colon colon 2, so this means that if in your string hello world, what will happen, that it will grab h, then it will grab l, then it will grab o, okay, means it will move 2 steps now, rather than right now if you have not defined, it is moving 1 step, right? Now it will move 2 steps.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Now there are some of the advanced functions in the strings, like the advanced are very basic ones, like the uppercase. If you have to convert, so you can use string dot upper. If you have to use lower, so you can use lower. If you want to make the first word or the first character of the string as the capital letter, so you can use capitalize as the function. So to count a particular character, that how many times a particular character has been occurred in a string. So for that you can use count. To find that what is the index position of the particular character in the string, you can use find, and in the argument or in a parameter you will be passing the character whatever you want to find it. Now there is also known as like the expand tab is just nothing. It will basically like after your word it will print a tab space, okay. And the center is not used too much, so you can ignore that. Okay, now is alum, this is nothing. This will basically return that if the characters in your string are alphanumeric or not, okay. Or alpha means that if the characters in string are alphabetic one, okay. Or if the is lower, It will basically, these are the Boolean value variables. Okay. Sorry, these will give you the output as a Boolean value, whether it's a true or a false values. Is a space, whether there is a space or not in a string. Okay. Now, there is one more thing which we'll see with the print formatting. If you guys have a little bit, like you guys have ever used this, like you guys know that we use hello, %s, %d, and then we, whatever the values we have to pass, we pass that in the any other programming language. Like the string formatting we do, right? It will take only string value. It will take only double digits. If you put %i, it will take, that will take only integer values. So here also you might see sometimes, like we have written some examples like that way. So I'll tell you how that string formatting is. But like ideally, like nowadays, like no one follows these because Python itself has capability to understand that what kind of data type it is. So it will take it on its own.
Yeah, Sachin, if Python has the ability to identify the data type, then I think the cast feature function will not be there in Python, no? Or is it?
But like that, it will be there because you cannot, there are certain limitations. You cannot concatenate string together, right? Python has the feature, but if you are doing some, like if you are trying to add one string and one integer, that will not be there, right? Because Python knows that that value is a string and that value is integer, but it will not convert that value on its own until you don't want to do.
Okay.
I'm trying to say that if I say Prasad plus 2, this will always throw you an error. So what you have to do here is that you have to convert this integer into string by doing this typecasting.
And that we call as type conversion, right, Sachin?
Sorry?
We call that is as type conversion, right?
Exactly. The type conversions you have to do. So the statement which I have made, that by the Python has capability to understand the data type, that means that it can understand the data type of that particular variable. But if you are performing some operation or something, so it does not know that what you are trying to achieve from that. So for what you are trying to achieve, for that you have to give a programming language that particular information that this is what you are trying to achieve. Hence we have to do the type conversions. Okay, let's talk about the conditional statements in Python. And we know that these conditional statements are very, very important because we ourselves put lot of time, lot of condition with us that, okay, I will do DevOps now, then after that I will do cloud, then I will do data science, or if I will do, if it is a rainy, if it is raining, then I will not go to office, or cloudy weather, then I will work from home, or if it's a sunny weather, then I'll go to office. So like you put lot of if, else, then else condition like this. Similarly, Python also has those conditions, but in terms of your programming logic. Here, in other languages, you write if, you write else if, but in Python, you write else if as elif. Okay, not completely. You ignore se and the space, and you write it as elif. Now, whatever your if condition would be there, you will write that condition. Here, you have to put colon to make sure that this if statement is completed. Okay, so this acts as a delimiter. After the if statement, the colon acts as a delimiter, and after that you will write whatever actions you want to perform, then the similarly elif and colon, then similarly else and colon, and your actions. But the most important thing to understand here is that if you can't write it like this, okay, because Python follows a 4-space indentation character. Okay, Python follows a 4-space indentation. Means after these if conditions, after these loops and all, it follows a 4-space indentation. Okay, and it IDs and all this automatically do that. So if I want to do this, it will give me an error, expected an indented block. So this is the most important feature of Python. If from here, if I just hit enter, it will automatically give it a 4-space indentation. So this is the most important feature of Python. that Python follows a 4-space indentation, and you should, if that is not done, you will get an error as expected and indented block. So keep this in mind when you are writing your if conditions and your other loops and these things. So here we can see few of the examples that if it is written if is, what are these if else? These are my reserved keywords. Okay, these are my keywords which are reserved in Python and you cannot use them as a variables. So you will write if and then whatever the condition is there true, then you can print whatever the statement you want to print it. Then x equal to false, then again if x colon whatever the statement you want to write, then else colon whatever the statement you want to write. So this is how you can write your if else block in Python and perform the operations or execute whatever you want to do. Similarly, if you have elif, so let's say that if it says that location is equal to bank, and it is basically making a comparison here between the two strings, that if bank is equal to auto shop, print welcome to the auto shop. Elif or else if, look, it bank is equal to bank, print welcome to the bank, else print where are you. So this is basically the, you can say that when you are putting the nested branch or you are putting if and else, then this is how you can write anything in the Python. Make sure about the 4-space indentation, make sure about the colon, and rest is the same which you do in the other programming languages.
Sachin, here we have defined LOC equal to bank. So we have to initialize that, right? Or even if we don't initialize, it's okay, because can we start directly without initializing, or do we have
that's what I told, that you don't have to define the data types in Python. You don't have to do any initialization in Python.
No. I'm telling you the first line LOC equal to bank has to be there. If you delete that line and then run the program, then it will not run, right?
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now if I want some input, from user. Okay, I want to okay, let's take in a different topic. So if you print this one, so this is it. So if there is one function also known as input function basically in Python 3, which basically takes the input from a user. We'll see, we have that example in further slides. We'll see that. So okay, so this is all about the conditional statements in Python. And anyone has any questions regarding this? Okay. So if not, then let's talk about the loops in Python. Now in other programming languages, what you do, that you basically write a loop as like for int I equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus, and then you start putting whatever your block of statements are there. Python really don't need this much of information from you. It does not care you defined a variable or not. It does not care about your curly braces are. Even it does not care about your parentheses. It does not need any of these things. We all know that what are loops? Loops act as a iterator in programming language, which basically iterates through the list of the values and print those values. The syntax of anything in Python is like, let's say that you have an iterator variable. In the previous example, here, what was my iterator variable? I is my iterator variable, okay, which is basically iterating through the list of the values or things, whatever you wanna loop over it, okay, or whatever you wanna loop over. Now here, this is for items in, let's say A, and you will put colon as a delimiter. After that, follow the 4-space indentation, and then you can execute or do whatever the operation you wanna do. So you see that we don't have to define any parentheses. You don't have to define any variable data type or something. No curly braces, nothing. Just write it in a plain format and it will do. Let's say that here you have some list of variables. Okay, we'll talk about list separately. But here you have some list of values with 1 to 10. And you want to print all these values. So what it has done, you have written for your iterator variable num in list 1 colon print num. And it will be printing all the values one by one to you. So you have got 1, 2, 3, 4 until 10. You have got all the values. Similarly, if you want to perform any other operations in that, let's say that from that particular list you want to print only the even numbers, so you can write your if condition inside that. Make sure that you are following the 4-space indentation. Make sure you are you defining it in a correct syntax, and everything is right. So to get the only even numbers, what you will do, that you will try to divide each number by 2, or like take the modulus of each number by 2, and if the remainder is 0, that number is even. If it is not, that number is odd. So similarly you can print that. Now one more thing here is that with for you can put else also. Okay, means this is in this condition they have put it inside the if block only. If you want to put with for, then you have to come it here. If you have to put it here, so it will come with for block. But otherwise, if you see this alignment, with that you can easily understand that you will put if under else. So this is the for this block. So that's why it says that okay, 1 is not my even number, 2 is my even number, then 3 is not, 4 is there, 5 is not, so it printed odd number. Okay. So these are some of the operations which you can do, but with for also you can use else. Okay, with for you can use else and all, and with that you can basically, what will happen, that will execute that else condition every time. Okay, so others like more here, like all the examples, like I've given different examples, but probably to understand the syntax and these things, it is like done in this particular way. Okay, any questions with for loop? No. Okay, so if you guys feel that I'm going a bit like in a pace, if any topic you feel that you want me to understand it again or explain it again, I'll explain it again. Okay, when I talk about the while loop, now while loop and for loop, loops are always same. They are, the function or the purpose of the loop is same, to iterate it over the list of value and give the result. Whereas the minor difference between while and for is that while, like both of them will execute the condition until that is met true, but for while specifically it is defined in such a way that it executes a single statement or a group of statement as long as your condition is true. As soon as your condition is false, it will be out of that loop. So here you see how you define while loop. While, whatever your syntax or whatever your condition is there, that colon, your 4-space indentation, and then your operations whichever you wanna perform. So that's how you can define your while loop. Exactly the same way, just the keyword has been changed to while, colon and indentation will be there, and rest will be the same logic as you do in other languages. Let's see a few more examples. Here you see, here we have written like with for we can use else, similarly with while we can use else. Here I have done operation, and when everything is done, then it will print all done. When your loop condition has been completed, then it will print all done. Break, continue, pass, we use it in a similar way. Break is what? Break means break means that to come out of the loop. Let's say that if you have put break here, that here let's say you have put a condition that if x equal to 3, break. So what it will do, it will come out of this loop. Okay, it will not execute anything as after the x equal to 3, and it will come out of the loop and exit the loop. But if you put continue here, so in that case what happens, that it will skip this value. Okay, the current value with the x equal to 3 value, it will skip, and then again it will process the entire other loop. So it will print 0, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and pass does nothing, so we don't even use pass. Now, can anyone tell me what this will mean? Double equal to is for comparison, but what is for triple equal to? No one knows that. Like
I think it will check the type also, if type is equal.
okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Who all think that Babita is correct?
Sachin, can you repeat your question?
My question is very simple. What does this statement mean? X triple equal to 3.
I guess it will. It might give an error.
Do you know
That
that?
it is a wrong statement.
Okay. Anyone else want to try anything? Shruti?
No idea.
Okay, no problem. We have Shanmukha in the class. He is not joined. Very good. Okay, no issues. So fine.
It's a strict comparison.
Yeah, Prasad.
It's a strict comparison if you give three equal twos.
Exactly. So Bhavita and Prasad, they are right. Basically, it checks the type also. Okay, along with that, or in the terminology, you can call it as a strict comparison. But it checks that whatever the type of this value and type of this value is, it will check that also along with the condition. Okay, so along with your condition, this will check your type of the variable also. So I'm telling you because there are certain requirements comes where you have to do this kind of strict comparison. In those scenarios, you will be using it. Okay, so we have only for and while loop here. We don't have any such. I don't think do while loop is not there, but mostly we use for loop only, or we use while loop. But going forward, I might ask you not to use loop also, because I'm going to show you something in few minutes, which will not allow, like basically more, which will be more faster than loops. Okay, now let's talk about the data structures in Python. Okay, so the first one is the list, and let's talk about little bit about the list. List is nothing. List is completely similar to your array in any other programming language. Okay, in any other programming language, whatever is your array, it is the list in Python. But it is very efficient, and you are going to use it very much whenever you are doing your scripting, whenever you are doing your developments in Python. Now, here, list is basically a sequence of any particular number, any particular string, or you can say any kind of a variable you can store, not any kind, I'll say any different data type of a variable you can store in your list. If you see, it is not that you have to store the same type of value. You can store any kind of a value in the list. It is enclosed within the square brackets and works like similar like array in your any other programming language. List is mutable. There is a concept of mutable and immutability in Python. And mutable means that if you can change any value, immutability means, or immutable means you cannot change any values. So for lists, you can change the values. There are certain things for which you cannot change the value, which we will discuss again in few minutes. So this is how we define the list by putting it in the square bracket. The first element of the list, that is 1, will be at the index position 0. Second element will be at 1. Then it will be at 2. So this is how the index elements go. To calculate the length of a list, you will use len function, the one which you are using for to calculate the length of string. Same function you will be using to calculate the length of the list. So list indexing, if you talk about, my list of 0 will give you 1, my list of 1 will give you 2, my list of 2 will give you 3. That is how your indexing works in the list. Now, this is quite basic things which we already saw in string, the indexing and the slicing part. Let's talk about something more in list. If I want to add any particular element in the list, in that case, what I'm going to do? So to add any particular element in the list, I can use it by this way. Sorry, I can use it by this way by using the concatenate operation. And I can say my list plus and the list of the new item. It will add the item at the end of the list. Okay, this will add the item at the end of the list. But if you see, I have not reassigned this item to anywhere else. Okay, I just written as my list plus new item. So what it is going to do, that it is basically like it will be assigned temporarily. Like if you again print my list, you will not get anything. Okay, if you again print my list, you will not get anything. Okay, so to do that, what you have to do, you have to reassign it to either to a new list or to the same list or anything, so that that particular item will be added. Okay, to double the list, you can like just do the double, like multiply it and do these things. But let's talk about few of the list methods. So the one way which I talked about the concatenation was via the plus operator, but there is a method known as append. If you use that method list1.append, it will add the list to the end of the add that particular element at the end of the list. Okay, like see append me you have used, it will add it at the end of the list. There is a pop method which will remove the element. Pop follows the last in first out structure, means it will by default it will take the last index first, if unless you have not specified any index value, so it will take the last index value first. Okay, you see here I have list1.pop 0, so it has popped out the deleted the first element. But if I do like I have 4 elements in a list, and if I try to access the list of 100 element of at 100 position, it will give me an error as index out of range. Okay, it will give me an error as index out of range. To reverse a list, there is a method known as reverse. To sort it, it is known as sort. By default, it sorts in ascending order. You can combine 2-3 lists together, and that will form a matrix for you, and then you can access the elements from there. Okay, this is about the list. Any questions here?
So is matrix like a multi-dimensional array?
The list
Is matrix like a multi-directional array?
not exactly, no. I would say not exactly, but it is no. It is just list of lists. You can call it as a list of lists.
Okay, then do we have
Array and
multi-directional?
yeah, for that there is a different module, NumPy. We will talk about that. We use that. For arrays, there is a different concept only in Python. That is a NumPy is one of the concept. We use that. Okay. Any other questions about list? I'll talk about list comprehensions in a few seconds. Okay, let's talk about few of the other methods of list. Append, we saw that it is basically useful to add the element at the last at the last position in the list. To count, to check that how many times a particular value has been occurred, you use count. Now append is basically it is adding at the end, but if you want to extend the list, okay, so extend what it do. See, append is basically here, sorry, this extend what it do, that it extends the list. No, sorry, that was wrong, guys. One thing here to notice, append is what it do, that it basically adds it as a list. Okay, if you have to add multiple values, to a list, in that case you will not using append, you will use extend, because extend will add it to the list. But because otherwise what it will do, it will add it as a list only if you are using append. Did you guys got a difference in between these two?
Yes, it's like array within the array.
Yeah.
Sachin, if we append the values with append, then can we access these values like 4 and 5, which
Yes.
we are adding?
You have to go, if you do 0, 1, 2, 3. So list of 3, if you want to print, not here. So this is there. This will give me that. And if I do 3 of 0, because that is again my list, it will give me that particular value.
So on third position, it will take this as a separate list.
Exactly. That is known as list of lists.
Okay, okay. And sorry, sorry to interrupt, but what is this in and out? This is
This
to
is
run.
input of the cell, and that is output we are getting for the cells.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So extend will be adding it to this, and in this index will basically like whatever the index number you will put, it will return the value whatever is that at that particular index. Now if you want to insert a value in between, so you will use insert method. Okay, you will define 2 arguments in that. One is the position at which you want to insert and the value which you want to insert. Okay, these will act as a insert. So these things comes with the practice. Okay, don't panic that how I will learn all these methods and these things. As and when you guys will be using the programming, as and when you will be practicing, you will get all this functions memorized. And in fact, in IDs and all, if you just do list and dot I, if you type, it will automatically tell you that insert whatever the methods, it will display all those. Pop we already discussed. Remove will remove the first occurrence of a value. Okay, whatever the first occurrence of a value will be there. Let's say you have a duplicate value in the list. So whatever the first occurrence of a value is there, it will remove that value. Reverse sort we discussed. Anything else we have? No. And no, we don't have any other functions for the list. These are few of the advanced functions of the list. Any questions with respect to list? If not list, then let's talk about tuples. Now, tuples work exactly similar to list, but they are immutable. Tuples work exactly similar to the list, but they are immutable. Means you can insert the value in the list, you can remove the value in the list, you can have duplicate values in the list, but into tuples also you can have duplicate values, but you cannot insert or you cannot remove anything from the tuple. The size of tuple will always be fixed. This is the only one difference between list and tuples. List is mutable and tuple is immutable. Sometimes in interviews, people ask, can you tell me any data structure which is immutable, and can you prove that? So you can prove that by trying to insert or trying to add. It will throw you an error. Tuples are defined in the parentheses. Okay, and it can again contain any type of a value. Doesn't matter that it should be a same type value. It can contain any type of a value, and tuples are defined in the parentheses. Length is used to calculate the length. Indexings are the same structure. If you use index method, you can use this. Although it has a less methods only, because there is no addition and insertion, so there is all those methods has been gone in this, and rest will be there. Let's see that here I am trying to insert any value at a particular position. It gives me an error that tuple does not support item assignment. So can anyone tell me that when can you use tuples? Yes.
For example, like if you want to keep something fixed, now, like when something's
give some example.
Give some example.
Vaibhav? Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say you are trying to store a student marks. Okay, those marks are never gonna change. You can store that. Let's say you are trying to store some, you are doing the tax calculations. The tax slabs will be the same. Those things will be same. You can store those kind of values which are never gonna change it in future. Those values you can store in the tuples. Okay. And you can convert tuple to list. How? Just typing list of t, it will convert the tuple into list. And similarly, if you do tuple of any list, it will convert into tuple. Let's see few of the advanced methods of tuple.
Such as tuple will have a single data type, or we can just enter my name and my date of birth.
Anything you can store in the tuples.
No, like I have defined T1. Inside T1, I am putting 3 values: my name, my date of birth, and my number. So I can do that now.
Yes, you can do that. Like this, you can store it.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, like those were only the methods of the tuples. Let's talk about the dictionaries in Python. What are the dictionaries in Python? Now, dictionary is what? See, to give a basic understanding, every one of you would have worked with JSON, or if not, what is JSON? It is basically a key value pair format. Okay, you will have key and you will have value. And everyone, like in your childhood or like nowadays, the people are more using Google. But now earlier you would have used dictionary, any like Oxford dictionary, anything you would have used. In that dictionary, what happened? There will be always a unique value, unique word. Okay, there won't be any duplicate word, but the value can be different for any of the value can be same for any of the word. Okay, means you, what does it mean? That your keys which are there, the words are what? Your keys, and the meaning of those words are what? Your values. So in a dictionary, your keys will always be unique, but your values can be duplicated. Your keys cannot be duplicated, but your values can be duplicated. How you define dictionary? You put the curly braces and you define one key value pair, then another key value pair. So you define a key and you define a value. So dictionaries will always be associated with a key and a value. A pair of key and value will always be associated with the dictionary. Okay. If you want to access a particular key, you have to pass in this like this in a characterized by square brackets, enclosed within the square brackets, the key, and it will give you value. If you pass it here key 2, it will give you the value 2. Okay, so again, list keys, dictionaries can hold any type of a data. Now these values of these keys can be lists, can be tuples, can be of any data type you want to do, and you can access it again in the similar fashion as I showed you, that when we had the list with the 4 and 5 list of list, and from there I used 3 of 0. So here also key of 3 will give me item 0, item 1, item 2, and if I want to access this particular value, so I will use 0 index.
And can dictionary have both mixture of tuples and list, right?
Yes, it can.
Okay.
If you put inside list also, if you put tuples, that can also be possible. There are certain scenarios where you see that 1, 2, and then you can put 3, 4. So that is known as the list of tuples.
Okay. Okay.
Now you can perform any operations that all like with when you got the value of a particular thing. So now with that value, you can do whatever operations you wanna do. To create any empty list, you will do like this. To create any empty tuple, you will do like this. To create any empty dictionary, you will do like this. And now if you have to insert any value, what you will do, you will assign the value like of the key, and then you will put the value whatever you want to put with that. Okay. And so similarly here you see that I have put this, and it will create a dictionary for me. Now this is something like a JSON where you have a nested, or you can call it as a nested dictionaries. For this key, this is my value. Okay. For this key, this is my value. and for this key, this is my value. Means after colon, whatever is there, that is my value for the above one. If I have to access this value, I have to walk through this path. Okay, I have to walk through this dictionary by first this key, which will give me this value. Now this, for this value, I have this is other key, so I'll go to this key and then to this key, which will give me the value. Now there are three important methods in dictionaries. One is keys, one is values, and other one is items. Keys will give you all the keys which are there in this. Values will give you all the values, and items will give you all the both the key and value associated together. But the problem is that the data type of these keys, values, and item is dict underscore keys, dict underscore values, and dict underscore items. Let's see whether it's I'm saying correct or not. So this is this. Now if I have to access this, value, these values, how can I do that? I can convert them into list. And now I can access and perform any operation from these values. Is it clear?
Sachin, how we can access the values of a dictionary? If I want to access the first key value from the dictionary, so how we do that?
So here it is. It's the one way that if you want to access the first key value, you will write the dictionary name and the key one, whatever the value for this, by this key name. By the key name only you will be accessing values of dictionary, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's talk about the last data structure, that is sets. Okay. Now you might like think that, oh my god, so many things are there, but the differences are very, very clear. List mutable, enclosed in square bracket, tuple immutable, enclosed in parentheses, dictionary key value pair, enclosed in curly braces. Sets are an unordered collection of unique elements, means set will not contain any duplicate value. I repeat my statement, set will not contain any duplicate value. That is the characteristics of the set. So if you have to store only the unique elements, you can use set. Okay. And this is how we create an empty set. You can add the values. It will be in curly braces only, enclosed within the curly braces, but it's not, does not mean that it is a dictionary, because dictionaries are associated with the key value pair. Whereas sets are not associated with any of that. You will have only the values. So you can add the elements using the add method in set. You can convert a duplicate list into the set, or if you have a question where you want to have a duplicate elements inside a list and you want to get only a unique elements, you can use it, the type conversion as a set, and you can pass your list. It will give you the duplicate, it will give you only the unique elements. This is a very basic question. Even like I myself, like when I take some interviews like for Python and these stuffs, and if I ask even from experienced people, they start writing for loop and they start doing a lot of other dramas, but they forget this small, very small thing, that you can do this in one line in Python. Whereas this is one of the favorite questions of interviewers. They ask when you go with the when you go for the interviews, and when they just want to check your basics, that how can you convert a duplicate list which has a duplicate value, and I want to get only the unique elements inside it. So this is about the set. Let's talk about a few of little bit about the advanced set methods. So add is basically to add the elements. Clear will remove all the elements from the set. You can use copy to copy the set of one set to another set. You can use difference to find out the element which is not present in either of the sets. Okay, here you see S has 1, 2, 3, S has 1, 2, 3, SC has 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm doing the difference between S dot difference SC. So only the 4 was the element which was the difference, so it will print that. Difference update will, what it does, difference update, what does it do is that it will return the value of whatever the value which is not common between the two sets, but only from set 1. Means set 1 has 1, 2, 3, set 2 has 1, 4, 5. The common value between this is 1, so it will remove this and it will print the entire set 1 results. Okay, it will print the entire set 1 results. These functions like we don't use too much, but like when we do real programming and all this. So, but it is for knowledge purpose, it is important to know. Discard will remove the element from a particular index, whichever you define it here. Intersection will give you the unique elements. Intersection update will update, like basically it will do the intersection of the entire set only. Like if you are doing here, my S1 has 1, 2, okay, so it will do the intersection with itself. Okay, intersection update will do the intersection with itself, that is 1, 2 only. This joint we don't use, but this joint is basically useful when you want to check if the two sets have a null intersection or not, and it gives you a value in the boolean that is true or false. Similarly, subset is used to find out whether a particular set is contained inside that set or not. Okay, any questions with sets?
Is there any union in sets?
I think there should be. There should be. I haven't seen that, but yeah, there is. It is. Union is there. There are lot of different methods. You can use those methods and these steps. Okay. So we talked about the data types. We talked about the keywords, variables, and operators, conditional statements, loop, and data structures. Okay, now let's talk about a little bit about the list comprehension, which is a very, very important and one of my favorite things. List comprehension is one of the advanced feature on the Python, which basically gives you the output as a list. Means I have a list of 100 values. I want to get the list of even numbers only. I have a list of 100 values. I want to get a list of 100 the even numbers only from that list. If I use for loop, if I use like there's a for x and for c in my list, I just do that if c mod 2 equals 0 print c. Okay, I do like this. What it will do, it will print one by one numbers. It will not print me list, but list comprehension, when you use list comprehension, it will print list only. Let's see from a small example first, and then we'll go to the if condition and all. I have a list of 100 numbers and I want to print some list only from that. Okay. Now, if I do this way, it will print me one by one. But if I have to use list comprehension, what I'll do, first of all, I want the numbers in list only, and list comprehension gives the output in list only. So I'll assign a list. I'll assign a square bracket. I want to perform my task. So I'll use for x in list. Now, instead of printing, using print or something, I'll just write x. This will print me the list of the values. You see here, for x in word, x means x is my iterator, this, and this will print me this. List comprehension is very, very efficient and very, very good in terms of performance. It gives you the output very, very fast. So always try to use list comprehension for your like whatever kind of requirement and these things you have, and if you can fit list comprehension in that, so try to use list comprehensions. Let's see few other examples. If I want to get from a list of numbers, I want to get the square of those numbers. Now in Python there is one more function named as range, which will basically give you the start, stop, and again start, stop, and that limit only, stop -1 basically, or end -1. So range is a function which will automatically print the values from 0 to till 11 minus 1, that is till 10. So I am using for x in range this, and x into 2, this will give me the square of this, 1 ka square 1, 2 ka square 4, 3 ka 9, 4 ka 16, and so on. If I have to use if conditions, so you can use if conditions like this and this. This all will give you the output as a list. You can perform converting. You have a list of this values and you want to convert the Celsius temperature to Fahrenheit, you can use this. You can have a nested list of list comprehension. Nested list of list comprehension is nothing. Let's say that for I in j, for j in I, now what I'll do, I'll print j first, then I will print I first. If this is what, this is my nested loop. So this is a very good thing to understand at how you can convert anything. Okay, because initially at first time you might not understand it how. So first write that for loop and then try to convert that. Now first I will write my inner loop. What I want to print from that, my j. Now what was my outer loop for I in j? Okay, and what I want to print from this final output is I. So this is how you can write your nested list comprehensions. Any questions, guys?
Yes, Sachin, are you going to give some, let's say, practice things for today? Because then we can practice such examples in the week.
Yeah, I'll give you certain. I have some of the scenarios which basically covers up almost all the things, and so I would suggest that the best part to practice all the things is to do the web scraping. Okay, if you do web scraping, for let's take you take any of the newspaper, you take the Hindu or any of the newspaper, one of the article, and try to just scrap it, start to scratch. You can use with that also you can utilize everything. But definitely, I'll be giving something as I said.
Sachin, will you be sharing the notebooks with us? The notebooks, Jupyter notebooks.
Yeah, it will be shared. All the materials which will be shown to you over the screen from yesterday till the end of class session, the DevOps class, each and everything will be shared with you guys. Don't worry about that.
And Sachin, would we be given an example how to create the notebooks on our own, if we need?
It's a very simple. You just here go file, click on new notebook. That's it. File new notebook, Python 3. It will open the things for you. Start working.
Sachin, what is the shortcut to execute any command here when we will be running any of the commands into the in tab? Is there any shortcut to run the command, or we need to directly click on the run?
So see, to be honest, I don't work with notebooks much because I'm the developer and I do the things from here from ID. So for this I know the shortcut Control Shift F10 is the shortcut to run any of the code. But for this I don't know what is the shortcut key. You can Google it and there would be definitely some shortcut.
Okay, okay.
I don't know. For the IDs, if you ask me, I'll tell you the shortcuts for everything.
Okay, okay.
With IDs, not with notebooks.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is all about the list, all about the list comprehensions and these things. Let's talk a little bit about functions. Okay. So these homework one which is there, you can like take that these also as an example for writing the functions and all. Like you can just copy the question. Like definitely we have given the outputs also, so that like it's just because these are very small and basic ones. You can use that. I have also something with the in the hacker rank also. You can check with the hack in the. I'll share you that link so you can utilize that hacker rank also for your practice. That will give you certificate also if you have done everything completely right. Otherwise, we will have one hacker rank certificate for your LinkedIn. Okay, let's talk about functions. Okay, now functions are what? Functions are my basically a block of statement. Okay, block of statements which you have written together. Okay, that could be considered as a function, and they are the main building blocks of the like of any particular program. Okay, now functions are very important. Why? Because they make your code in a structured format and easily understandable format. I am writing some code which has 5,000 lines of code and I don't use function in that, I would say myself as a stupid. Because if in future I am going to get any issue, what will happen? Debugging that 5,000 line of code is a very difficult job. But if you write function for your small task also, let's say you are doing a calculator and for addition, for subtraction, for multiplication, and for division, you have written 4 different functions. In future, you are getting any error, or if you have to modify any of the functionality or do the enhancements on any of the functionality, you will directly go to that particular function and do change the things there, rather than searching for that particular line in entire 5,000 lines of code. As well as it makes your code more structurable, more understandable to read for other person also. So this would be like, you can take it as a suggestion or advice, whatever it is, but I would always recommend to write a function for any of the small thing. You should write the functions in any of the programming languages. It's not only about Python, but it's with every programming language. I myself as a developer don't prefer the codes which are not written without the functions. Though condition is like if they are very lengthy codes. If there are 5-10 lines, it's okay. But if they are more than that, try to write the things in a function. So let's see how functions are written here. And before that, let's see how functions were written earlier, so that you can make out a difference that how this has been reduced now. If you all know, in Java, you would be writing like one of this very famous line, everyone knows this, public static void main. Like you have to define these 4 keywords. People have to know that what does these 4 keywords mean, and then you start writing this, or you define the function like by public int the function name and parentheses and enclose in the curly brackets and these things. Okay, in JavaScript you write it like this, like the function colon this, and then you even define the function name, and then you start writing your function body. Okay, but in Python it is not that typical. You just have to use one keyword known as def, def, not deaf. So you have to just use this keyword known as def. Name of the function, if you want to give any argument, give the argument, and for colon, don't forget colon as a delimiter. 4 space indentation, you are working in IDE, it will automatically take it. Just start writing your body. No curly braces, no other drama. Very simple. Def keyword, whatever the name of the function, and start writing things. Def ABC, this 4 space character, start writing your statements. This is all about the function. In Python, this is how you define the function. This is the syntax of any function. Now, let's say you have defined a function name as say underscore hello, which will be printing hello. So you have defined a function. To call the function, you will use the name of the function, that is say underscore hello, and it will print the hello for you. Similarly here you see I have written this string formatting basically, okay, which I was talking about, that this will give the output of in the string only always. Okay, if you pass integer value also, it will give the output in string only. So this is how, and here they have written pass the argument as name, and is when you call this function, so make sure you pass the value for the argument. Okay, you might remember pass by value or call by value and these concepts. So kind of similar concept here, you have to do this. and it will print the output for you. Instead of print, you can use return. So return will basically return the value for that, whatever it is. Okay, you have defined one function as add num, and you have given the two parameters inside this as number 1, number 2, and they are returning this. And when you pass the value, it will return the result for you. This is the function to check the prime numbers and so on. You can use it. Any questions here? Can anyone tell me the difference between function and method? I would like to hear from those people who are not actually speaking. Keshav. Keshav, are you there? Great, he's not there itself. Okay, no problem. Shruti, you want to try the difference between function and method?
Uh, I don't know, from object-oriented language concept. I think you need when you call an function, you need to I mean, you have to have an object, like object dot method you call, I think. And I'm not sure about function, whether you directly call it or not. I'm not sure. But for executing a method, I think you need to have an object associated from OOPS perspective.
Okay, okay. Babita or Swarupa, anyone else want to try?
Uh,
Yeah, Babita, go ahead.
yeah, I think methods are some predefined functions, and like functions are like, as you already said, it's like a piece of code which can return something. Um, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, and functions, yeah, same with Babita, but functions can be reusable. You can call the function as many times as you want.
A method you cannot call.
Yeah, method you can call, but method are object oriented specific, I think.
Exactly. Okay, so most of you are correct in terms of object oriented, and this is the basic difference, that functions can be reusable. It is a piece of code which is written and you call them, like it has its own scope, it has its own name and everything. Whereas methods are always associated with the class. Methods are always associated with the class. They will be written, they will have like be already be defined and or predefined and all those things, like type, what is or sorry, in the list we saw this append, we saw this extend, we saw the count. Okay, sort, all these are what, these all are methods which are already defined in Python. They have their own class, they have their own uh, functions which are already there, and you are just calling those methods and making use of that. Whereas functions, you need to define them, you need to call them, you need to define a body, it has its own name. So this is the difference between functions and methods.
Sachin, is there anything like you can create your own functions in Python? Like your own methods in Python? Like you can create a function and you can define it there, and when you try to like enter the values and call it, it can be called.
Yes, you can do that. You have to create, we'll talk about classes then in Python, in that you will see that.
Okay.
Sachin, one more thing, that is there any dependency of declaring a function before calling it, like in the line of code?
Yes, how can you call a function without declaring it?
Okay, no, because in like once I used to work with C, and there was this stuff like we could do that, like in the main function could be like up like somewhere above in the code, and the called function could be in below. So I was just clarifying, do like
Yeah,
do we
but
have a dependency?
Okay, I got your point. So you are saying something like this. You have written this main function. Here you have called these functions func1 this, func2 like this. Okay, and now you have defined. Now you came out of this main body and you have defined func1 and you have defined func2. Okay, and you are,
Yeah.
this is what you are asking, right? But if you know, if you also remember parallelly this thing, that whenever the any code executes, first of all it will go to main, and as soon as it go to main, it saw that okay func1, so immediately it will go to the body of this func1 wherever it has been declared, right? If it is not, if it will not find this body, this method, this function body, it will throw you an error that the function does not exist or could not find the function, isn't it?
Yes.
So definitely you have to first define the body and do the things, and because then only you will also know, right, that what is the name of the function you are going to call it. Okay, now if when we were talking about a main, so let's talk about the main function here also. In Python also we have one main. When you write functions, so with every language we have the main. Okay, main is what? Main is my it's basically that, like a yeah init, not init function, like yeah the first function which will be written, which will be read by your compiler or by your interpreter. Okay, so in these in Python or in Java we have public static void main. In C also we define main function. Okay, I'm forgetting the name of that. I think it is main only something. But in Python you would define this main function via this format: underscore underscore name, double underscore it is, underscore underscore equal to, and then you write this main. And now inside this you start calling your functions. Okay, whatever your functions are there, let's say API1, API2, whatever functions are there, you will call all this here. Okay, this is the main function in Python. Saurabh, are you getting the things?
Yes, Sachin.
Okay. So this is the API1 and API2. Like this is how you can define the main function in Python.
Sachin, do we have overloading and overriding concepts in Python?
No, those are like as per object oriented, those concepts are there, but like you, like it's all like you are not defining it in a like you do in Java and all that.
Okay, so I cannot declare the same function name and have multiple arguments
Yes,
to it.
you cannot do that. Yeah, it's not like that. Yeah, the function's name should be unique. Okay, now what should we discuss? Okay, let's talk about lambda functions before talking about any other thing. So there are three important things. One is map, one is filter, and other one is lambda expressions. Let's talk about map and filter first, and then we'll go ahead with lambda. Map is what? When you have some functions already written and like you want to map a list of values or map the list of elements to that function to get the desired output, you use map function. And you don't want to define or write the for loop, means it itself acts as an iterable object. Map and filter itself acts as an iterable object. How we can use it and what is basically the main understanding of this, let's see by example. You have defined a function named as square, which will basically return the square of any value. I have the list of numbers with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I have to execute this in a normal way, I have to write a for loop, right? I have to write a for loop. And when I start writing a for loop, at that time, I will get like for I equal to for num in this my nums, and then I will put this. But when you use map here, you are not defining any loop or something. You just pass your function name and the list which you want to pass. That's it. It itself acts as an iterable object. So to any function, it will be an iterable object. But again, the problem is that this gives the output, or the type of this is map, and it gives some memory allocation address to us. So to get the output or to get the result, you have to convert it into the list or tuple, whatever you wanna convert that. This is the map. Let's say if you are doing some string and you want to get only even strings from that, so you can use this. And this is how you can define map.
Sachin, I'm not clear, sorry.
So map function is nothing. It acts as a map acts as a iterable or as a iterator to any function. Okay, to any function, map is an iterator.
Okay.
Here, see in input 1, I have defined a function name as square, the purpose of which is to print the square of the numbers.
Right.
And input 2, I have the list of the numbers. Not scenario, if you want to print the list of the list of the squares, you will be writing a for loop definitely, so that you can iterate over a list and you can calculate the square of each number.
Right.
But here with the you can avoid writing the for loop and you can just use the map function. And that function, you pass your function, like, which is basically having the logic to do the calculations, and the my num is nothing. It is a parameter, or it is the argument value which you have, which you anyways will be passing inside the num, inside your function. And once you convert to the list, you see in out 7 that we have the value here.
Okay, and suppose here in the function definition, you are passing the one argument, right? And suppose I am passing another argument as num1 and num2, and my return is num1 into num2. Then my question is it the argument specific the functions are? Because here in the map, what you have written is map square comma my nums, and you are passing the whole list and you are getting the output. So if I
it will do the task for you.
Okay.
You have to just define. See, normally if you would be passing the same thing in any other, like when you were, let's say that if you are calling this function square, so you will be passing 2 values already, right? If you have nothing. Here also you are going to do the same thing.
Okay. Okay, fine.
Now let's talk about filters.
We use map only if we have to iterate the things. Otherwise, it's not something.
No. Yeah, it's all just to avoid the normally we are using for loop and all those things. You write 3 lines of code and these things. That's why like Python is easy, because you are very comfortable with this. You start avoiding like lot of things, and these all increase your performance, your execution of code. These all increase your complexity of a code. When you talk about a bigger notations, it all gives you very less complexity. Because like I will just share one example. Like recently, like for me, like one of the, like we had one of the fresher joining, and she like there was a one requirement where we have to parse one API, and you won't believe, like she has used 3 for loops and 4 to 5 if conditions inside that, and like that simple program which can be executed in 5 minutes, it was taking 2 hours to run. So like that's how you can reduce that, because like when people don't know, so they try to use for and if only, and as soon as you start increasing your for loops, your complexity of code keeps on increasing by multiplication of that in n into 1 2 3 like that. If you are familiar with algorithms and data structures, you can easily calculate these complexities. So to avoid all those,
do we have any IDE which will give us a suggestion that instead of for you can use map or something? Because there could be, because for us now, for example, we are let's say I'm starting new in Python.
Yeah,
there could be hundreds of things like this where it could be there, but I am not aware of all the things. So how? So is there any
Right.
good way for
So
doing that?
no, so Prasad, to be honest, like there is no such ID or something which gives you suggestion. But like as I mentioned, that it comes by practice and comes by that. But yeah, definitely what you can do, like your requirement which is there, and when you have written the logic, you can like just do the Stack Overflow, that how you can apply map into that. If you remember that, that is also again that if you should remember that okay, there is a map some function, or there is some function named as filter. But again, like it comes with the practice.
Sachin,
Self
is
use that. Huh.
so like from ID perspective, it's fine. So is there any best practices guidelines kind of a thing which is
Yeah, there
there
is a
for the beginners basically? Like in case if say, because point is that's correct that it comes by practice. So but
so
like
best
when
practices guidelines are there, sort of, but that best practices guidelines will not tell you that to like if you have such requirement where you can fit in map rather than using for. So that will not tell you that. That best practices guideline will tell you that you should not start your variable name with this. You should not put space. You should use underscore and other things. So definitely there is a some PEP 8, PEP PEP 8 Python, like it. So this Python follows this PEP 8 coding standards. So we can use, or you can go through this documentation, which will tell you about the few of the best practices. But this will tell you in terms of syntactical and semantical things, not in terms of that. So as I said, that map and filter, it's not that everywhere it can be fit. Like anywhere you can ignore the for loop and you can put it. There would be kind of a requirement where you can put that. But to follow the coding standards and these guidelines, Python follows the PEP 8, and you can use that. You can read that coding standards. These. Okay. Let's talk about.
This can be also used for a repeatable things, like for example, if you have a list in which you have names of all the people, and then you want only first two characters of all the names, so we can use the map in that case, right?
Yes, you can use in that case, because your logic, which is, so this is okay, this is for which, like where your logic is written separately, and now you have like different kind of values which would be keep on coming. So you don't want to like write an iterator or those things. You can use that. You can use for like to fetch only first two characters, or to get the even numbers, odd numbers, prime numbers, or you want to get, if you have written any function where you are passing some API and you want to get all the list of the like all the values which are associated to a particular key. In that case also you can write it, because your logic, you see, is written completely different and values are completely different. Am I clear, Prasad and Saurabh?
Yes.
yes.
No, I was just thinking about more practical examples where we could use map. So just thinking it loud.
I'll share you a few of the examples. Don't worry, I'll share you. Okay, let's talk about the filter functions now. So filter function is nothing. It is basically, it will filter out the values. Like means when you are doing, when you have a list of values, and again, like if you want to filter out some of the values based on any of based on your condition or requirement, you can use filter. Acts completely say in the same pattern like map, but map will give you the all those values. Here, if you have some if conditions and all those included, so it will filter out based on that if conditions and these things. Okay, and this will again, you can convert it into the list. Okay, let's talk about the lambda function. Now lambda function is nothing, it is basically the anonymous function. So anonymous function means it does not have its own any name. Okay, you don't have to define about, worry about its name, its scope and these things. You can directly define the lambda function using the lambda keyword. It is just a single line of statement. You don't write like you are writing functions like a block of statement and all. Lambda, you don't write like a block of statement or that. It is just a single line of statement. Let's try to understand that how you can write this with a small example. You have a function name as square, and you are doing the square and you are returning a result here. And you will be calling it like this. To simplify it more, you can remove this return from here. Return result, you can remove this from here and you can write it return num into 2. Means you can write directly return num into 2 rather than assigning one more variable and putting it into that. Okay. Now to simplify it more, you can just put it in one line also. This will also work. But with lambda, if you have to do the same, so as I said, you don't need to define the name of the function. So this got skipped here. Okay, you don't need to define the return type or something. So lambda, you don't need to define def. Only the whatever the operation you want to perform, you can write that. Whatever the operation you want to perform, you can write that, and this will give you the desired output here. Like you can assign it to particular variable and you can use it. So lambda is like the anonymous function which does not have any name or anything. It is a single line of a statement rather than having a block of statements. So like for less complex and these functions and all, you can use lambda, like where if you basically you can use lambda map and filter together, or lambda and map filter together, lambda and filter together, like that. So here you see that I have written this and I have passed the argument and then I'm passing map, it will give me this. Here lambda n colon n mod 2 equal to 0, filter this. So you can use with lambda these map filters together, you can use it in this way. So here you see that I want to grab the first character of a string. So it has given lambda s colon s comma 0, s of 0. Any questions guys here?
Sachin, how to call this then? If I'm not assigning any variable, like here you assign square is equal to lambda num colon num power 2, then you are calling it with the name. If I'm not assigning, I'm just defining this like in one line, lambda num.
You don't call it. That's why it's an anonymous function. You don't call it. Here I have written this, but I have given the statement also. You should not assign a name to the lambda expression, because then it's not a lambda. Then you are just completely losing this. You can. That's why you have to use map and filter with lambda, so that there is an argument you can pass with that.
Sajin, can you please repeat lambda once again?
Yeah. So lambda basically, yeah.
So Sachin, is it like that this lambda is used for a non-repeatable activities? Because if it is a repeatable activity, like Babita said, if I have to call it 10 times, then I would write a function, right?
Right. You will write a function in that case, but here it's like this.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry to cut you, Saurabh.
Okay, so for Saurabh, let me repeat it again. So lambda is an anonymous function. Anonymous function means the function which does not have any name, okay, which does not have any body and these things. You just define it in a single statement rather than having a block of statement. That is known as lambda functions. So if you see here these lambda functions are defined by just giving the keyword as lambda and whatever operation you want to perform. Okay. Whatever operation you want to perform, you have put that statement here to get the output, to get the values, because you have, this is kind of my argument only. I should give the value of this, then only it will calculate it. I am using a map function here and I will be passing the argument here, which will basically give me the output. So to the functions which are as Prasad and other set of functions which are not, you don't want like to be repeated again and again. The functions which are not too complex I mean that where a lot of other calculation and things are not there. Those smaller functions you can break it into the lambda functions. Okay, the less complex, the simpler things you can break it into the lambda rather than writing the function.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
No, good. Sorry.
Sachin, right now we defined lambda square, then we called it square 2, 4. So now I have to use lambda function again for using cube. So can I again make use of the keyword lambda and do num into 3 to make it cube? I mean,
yes, lambda is a keyword.
yeah. But we can in the code we can repeat the lambda and change the logic behind that, right?
You can use this everything same. That it doesn't matter to it, because for this you will be passing the values by a different way. This is doing the cube. This is doing the square. You guys can try it at home and let me know if it is throwing an error. It will not.
Okay.
Sachin, do we need to call any other package for map, or it is inbuilt, like we can directly call this method?
Inbuilt. No need to call any package.
Sachin, can you give any practical example of map and lambdas? Because this is now a basic example in theory, or a beginner's experience example. Can you give practical example that you have seen in your projects?
So yes, I have used lambda and map and these things in my projects when we parse the API and when we get the list of the values. So I mostly like write APIs and parse work with that. So we use map function to pass the values and to get the list. Like I can't show you the code because like those codes have the office details. So those codes I can't share you, but I can share you that logic separately.
Okay.
I can share you that logic separately to everyone.
Yeah, or probably based on your experience, you can make a small assignment for us, which we can
Yes.
try.
Yes.
For example, like you said that yes, email scrapping or scrapping of net web. In that, probably you can give us 2-3 assignments saying that okay, you want to do this. Can you? Which function will you use? And then we'll try using a map and lambda.
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Saurabh, you wanted to ask something. Like, sorry, you got interrupted.
Yeah. Can you go back to the notebook? Yeah. Can you scroll up a bit? Okay. Yeah, that's it. Fine. So if you scroll down on this lambda function, so you're saying lambda, if I use it as a keyword, I can say num will have all the multiples of 2 for me, right?
Yeah.
Because with this example, basically I'm facing a bit difficulty to understand how exactly we relate it in this real life, because if I do not even use it, I can very easily map this value, the multiples of 2, into a list, right?
Yes.
By using some of the
Yes, you
some
can.
of the previous approaches which you have mentioned. So I
Exactly.
can yeah. So I'm just trying to identify scenarios where lambda could be very handy in terms of using anything else.
Okay. So, see, the thing is, if there are few of the differences, okay, between lambda and these, which you guys are not able to understand right now. That's why we all are facing issues. Lambda function is immediately callable, means it basically follows a standard known as IIFE. Okay, IIFE means immediately invoked function execution. Immediately invoked function execution means that lambda function will be called as soon as it is defined. Other functions and all what you is there, until unless you are not calling them, it will not be invoked, right? This is so if you want to execute some of those functions which, or if you want to write these those functions which immediately can be invoked, which can be called immediately at the same time, so that you can use those outputs afterwards, in that cases also you can use the lambda. Okay, so I'm not saying that you should not use function, you should use lambda. It's just one of the approach with which you can replicate it, considering your requirement and these things where it can be fit properly. Okay, means where there are certain requirements and stuff where it can be fit properly. Let me see if I have something in like in my local one. I have something here. So I don't think I have something here. Oh, in this one, I have not. That is in the server. That code is there basically, where I have written these lambda and map combined together. So those are in the server. So I'll give you some examples, the real time examples where it can be there. So with these basic even and odd examples, I know like will not get much detailed one, but I'll give you some examples here.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with the files, and what else is left was, okay, got it. So let's start with files. Now we have like different text files, emails, and the Excel and all these things, which are like already there. And if you want to read those files and save those files or do some operations on those files, so Python provides you the those features as well, with as like other languages provide you, that you can use the open method, you can use the read method, and these things which can basically help you in reading the files and appending the data and these things to the file. So one way to reading or writing through a file is that you can go ahead with this percentage write file. If you write, so this will overwrite any file. Okay, this is one way, but this is for IPython, which is a different thing. We don't like talk about that very much. So let's forget about this. Let's talk about the normal methods which we have in Python. If you want to open any file, you can use open method, and the file name, whichever you want to open, you have to give the complete path of that file name, and it will open that file. Okay, if it is not there, it will give you error as no such file or directory present. Now if you want to read that file, so once you have opened that file, you can use the method as read. It will read the file, but there is a problem. I want to read this file. I am reading this file from here. My cursor keeps on moving from Python, like it will read one by one line here, and it will come till here. After that, if you try to read it again, can anyone tell me what will happen? I have this file to read. Python has read and it has displayed the output here. Now after that, again I want to read it. What will happen?
Yeah, it will start from the last point, I think. It will not go back again to the point 0.
Exactly. That is the whole point here, that it will not go back to this, because cursor is at this point for the file which you have already read, and now if you want to read further, it will give you the blank output because I don't have anything. So you should use a method name as seek. Once you have read the file, put method seek and put it the pass the value as 0, so that it will go back to this index 0, so that if you read again and again, it will read that file rather than
But Sachin, if I create a different object with my file 1, then it will again start with 0, right?
Right. Then it will again start. Okay, now if you want to read line by line, so you can do read lines. It will give you the output in the list format. Okay. Once you have done all the open the file, read the file, seek, then go ahead and close the file using close method. Now you can open the file, read the file in different modes or in different permissions. Those will be your R, that is read permission. Okay, W, that will be your write permission. W plus will be write and read both permissions. and you will have append mode, that is A, which will be basically adding the text in the file. So you can write anything to the file using this write method, and again you can use this seek method and then read it and close it. For appending, you can open the file with A plus mode, which will basically allow you to append the text and read it. So you can write, it will be like overwriting the file. After that, sorry, it will be adding to the same file, and you will get the values here and you can close it. So these are very, very basic things, but there are some of the modules which are very, very important and very good modules. These are like when you are trying to read any file from local or something, so you can use these files. Okay, let's say that I will show you some example if I have here. I don't have any example like thing here. I'll show you guys like at the end. Once I'll stop the recording, because sometimes these recordings goes in YouTube, so I'll be kicked off then. Okay, so this is how you can work with files, where there are very simple methods: open, read, write, and all this. Okay, so fine. Any questions here? No. Okay. Now let's talk about the modules in Python. Okay. Before that, let me just see if I'm forgetting any other thing. Let's talk about modules in Python. Now, before that, there is a term known as pip. Okay, PIP in Python. It is one of the utility which is very helpful to install any modules in Python or to any libraries in Python, or you call it as the packages in Python. Pip is a very useful utility to install any library, any module or package, or in Python terms we call it as module. Means if you have to connect to SQL database, you will be using SQL module. To have a date time, you will be using date time module. For to create the logs, you will be using logging module. Okay. To read the CSV files and these things, we use pandas. So different modules we have. Now it's not mandatory that all those modules will be installed by default in Python. You have to install most of the modules. If it is not there, you get the error that no modules are there. And you install it by the command name as pip install module name. Okay, install by the command pip install. Let's say I have a pandas module to install, and I will click here. It will fetch it from the repository and see. I already have most of the modules installed in my system, so it gives me that requirement already satisfied because I have already there. And these modules will be installed in your lib site packages folder inside wherever your Python is installed. So pip is a very useful utility to install the Python, any of the modules. Okay. Now sometimes you get.
Sachin, how will we get to know the names of the modules? For example, now you said that for doing this you have to install Panda. For you're doing this you have to install another one. But as a fresher, how will I get to know about all those modules?
So yeah, so like there are list of the module libraries which like is there in the Python documentation, and like again like that all like will come by practice only, Prasad. Like as because see, we know that okay, I have to create a log file. So for that there is a module known as logging. So like initially the days like when I have started this, so I also just start doing Google that I want to create a log file in Python. From that I got to know that okay, there is a module named as logging. To connect to MySQL or SQL, I know that there is a module known as SQL, because in Java also, if you want to connect to the driver, so you call a JDBC ODBC driver there package. So that how we get to know. If we call this JDBC ODBC driver, we get to know that okay, we want something to connect with some third party thing now or something explicitly. So for that we have to call a different packages. So that like definitely like I would say will come from practice or by doing a little bit Google and these things. Because
Sachin, sorry to interrupt. So can we check what are the libraries which are part of each module?
I didn't got your question. Sorry.
No, so what I'm just trying to understand is, can we check the library? So you said like, okay, if I have to do say SQL operation, I have to install a specific library. If I have to do some CSV parsing, I have to install a Panda module. So can I see what all are the libraries, or what all are the projects which are part of this module? Like if I correlate it with a jar file. So from jar, I can see what all classes will be part of that jar which I'm importing into my class.
Yes,
So
yes, you can see
can
that.
we see what all has already been there?
You can see that. So here you see, if I install Panda, it creates these two kind of a folders. One is some information folder and this. And inside this, like it has like this init, like it is all basically the classes. So one second. It has, so if you go here, so like these ways, like these classes and these things would be written. So you have to look for that specific class which you are looking for, inside which that method will be there, and from there it will be written.
Okay.
More examples. For each and everything, they have a different uh, this modules here. This for indexings and all, they have a different utility. Okay, so they have defined this as their own classes and these things which they have defined here. Okay, you see, for this they have the whatever the slide for index slicing in pandas, they have defined it here. Okay, and for index mixing, they have indexing mix, index errors and all, they have defined as classes. So if you look into that, you can look, and there are some of the like you can check that how many modules and these things are installed in your uh, Python. Okay, by using this pip list command. So if you use pip list command, you can see that what all modules you have installed. So you see, like I have like these, like I have for Azure services, I have Azure modules installed. For some HTML things, we do Beautiful Soup, it is there. When I connect to AWS, so I use Boto 3. I have Boto 3 installed. Okay, I do lot of encryption decryption. For that I have cryptography encryption for net, like based on the type of encryption I'm doing, I have. When I connect to Google Cloud, so I have Google Cloud module installed. Okay, when I do authentication and try to connect via authentication, I do this. So it will list to request or to connect to any URL, I do Python this request. Okay, this S3 transfer is one of the module, basically like when I want to store any files or buckets in S3 via my code. So I do these all things. So
So Sachin, so one more question, like these are all modules which you basically install using pip. So are these have to be part of the same install directory where your Python is installed?
it will
Or
automatically install in the same, when Python
okay.
is installed, at that
Mhm.
time pip is automatically installed with it. You don't have to install it explicitly.
Okay, and so the second question is, like, say in case if I start using, if I'm working on a Python project and then I wanted to say uh, plan for a DevOps pipeline on top of this. Say there's a project which I'm working, and then I'm trying to say use Maven or maybe some other build tool to try to have a build being automated for this. In that case, when I'm doing this build, so are these all libraries which I would say modules which are part of this project would be included inside my build, or will
No,
this be just referenced?
no, it will be not included. So that's why when you are doing that build, so that's why when yesterday we were talking about the configuration and all those things. So in Ansible and all, like you will write that code, which will basically install that particular modules as soon as you into your other server, wherever you are doing the build.
Correct, because usually in Java and all other tools, we just have those settings file where we define the repository
Exactly. Yeah.
from where we can take these external jars. But over here,
No.
say Boto 3 and all these like I would say what you have installed just now, pandas and all of them. So how, like if I'm deploying the same build in any higher environment, so does Python takes care of installing all the dependent modules in that
No.
environment, or do I need to do it
No,
beforehand?
you need to do it explicitly. That's what the issue, because when initially like for one of my clients, like what we did, like we migrated the entire Python 2 to Python 3. Okay, like there we like our job was to migrate all the Python 2 codes to Python 3, and for that we have like written the script which is basically installing all the latest modules in the another server and all these things with respect to Python 3. Or if it is not there, so you have to install it. This is the problem, that it does not come. Other thing you can do, that is a basic shortcut which I can tell. If you don't want to do anything, just copy the site packages which is there inside this. Just copy this package and replace it there in your. You don't have to do anything.
Okay, because I was just trying to think, because if you are having all these modules and so many classes inside the site package,
Basically,
so
you have to
your
copy this entire lib
build
package.
will be very heavy, and then in that case it won't be much useful to
No,
have
it is
it.
not anyways. Your build is not anyways storing that in your like it is not taking your application usage, right? It will be stored in your installation folder. So why your build load will increase?
No, I'm just saying if you make the copy in the same project where you are trying to build this libraries from, in that case, but you answered me that you are not going to include all these modules inside your build, so that should be fine.
Because if you talk about Java also, in Java also you explicitly call those jar, right? You include those jar when you build a project and all those things.
Correct, but usually there are multiple ways of doing it, using external jars and using some internal jars as well, and how you package it inside your project.
Exactly.
So there are some good practices, some bad practices. That is different, but that's what I just wanted to check with you. Like these classes has to be part of my build package or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let's quickly see a few things more here. How you can install and how, like once you have installed and everything, how you can use it. So let's talk, we are taking example of date time here. This, as in Java, your first line of code is the package name, and after that whatever the libraries you have. So here also first line of code will be import, and import is your keyword which will basically take that particular module. So import module name will be your the first line of code, and then you can utilize the methods which are there inside that. And now coming to the question that how do you know that what are the methods in that? Again, one thing we always talk about the questions. Another thing we talk about that date time dot. If I do date time, I don't have date time here. So if I do date time dot, so you see all these functions will be listed out automatically. Whatever the functions are associated with date time, it will be listed out automatically. And you can just, if you are using this date, so you can use date and then you can pass on the values. So always like the things has to be referred from Google. 1 day, 2 day will not be, is that in 1-2 days you will get, because I still refer to these modules for these and methods and these things in Google, because you work on so many things that you really don't remember all these methods and all, and that's why the Google is there. So here if I call this date time, now I can modify and I can put this time and all these things here. Okay, so I can use this import date time, and I can use this date time dot time, which will basically give me the time in hour, minutes and seconds. So it has the parameters as hour, it has the parameters as minutes, it has the parameters as seconds, and time zone info. So it will give me all those outputs. Okay. Guys, just a minute. Yeah, sorry. So if you have to take the minimum time and the maximum time, so for that we have this date time dot time dot min, date time dot max. Okay, for dates we have the functions. If you want to get today date, so date time dot date dot today will give you the current date. Okay, and differently if you want to find year, so there is a year method, month method, and day methods. Like this, we have different methods which we can use and through which we can use the utilize the date time, and we can put that. I'll show you how it all these things is done in a few minutes. I'll show you some live codes only.
Sachin, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. You told that we can install some packages or some modules through pip install, and for this daytime thing, we are using this import. So,
No, to import that to import that into your Python code, into your code, you will use import.
but
That
these things
module
are
into your
same, like pandas, SQL, CSV, and this
same.
date time.
Yeah. So if you have to use pandas, you will use import pandas. If
Okay.
you use
Oh,
date time, you will use import date time.
okay. So first we need to install through pip install, and then to use them in our code, then we used to import.
Exactly. There are certain modules which are already installed, like logging is there for logs. That is already there. Okay. In fact, date time is also already there. You don't have to install all this. So,
Okay.
so all the ones which you connect basically with the third party, okay, which someone has created and like now you can use them. So like that. Even you can create your own modules. Like let's say you have created a Python code name as abc.py, and now you want to use that some function of that code in any way. So you use import ABC, and now you call any methods of that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, got it. Yeah.
The best example for this is like we normally do configuration, write configuration files, right? Where we store username, passwords, and other kind of details. We call it there in the config files. We just import it into Python and we call it. We use encryption and encryption mechanism and all. So a different code is written for an encryption mechanism, but we just call those methods wherever we have to encrypt any value.
Okay, Sachin. Yeah.
So similarly, pandas is one of the important module, and like when you work with CSV data, it's a very good module for reading the CSV data and very easy. So like if you have any CSV file or something, so you can go with import pandas, and there is a function known as pandas.read CSV, and you pass the file name, it will read the CSV for you. And then if you say, so basically it creates a data frame for you. Okay, it creates a data frame for you after it has read the CSV. So it creates a data frame for you. And after that, if you do dot head, so if you don't pass anything, it will display first 5 columns. Okay, like this. It will, if you do dot head, so it will display first 5 columns to you, rows and columns. And if you put anything, it will give that. Now there are a lot of different methods and things which you can use that. I'll show you a few examples with related to this. There is a OS module. OS module is helpful for when you want to work on the Unix and Linux environments. So to list the directory, for PWD, for changing directory and all these things, you use this. Okay. Let me quickly show you matplot. Matplot is for the to plot anything. Okay, to plot the graphs and these things you use matplots. So we call this here, like instead of writing this big name, you can just use as MPL, like which is you are creating a alias here, and like whatever style, these are styles available, you can use any of the style which you want, and you can plot the graphs and these things with the help of matplot. Okay, you can plot these graphs and these things here. Even you can plot these histograms, okay, by different methods. So these are the usage of the libraries. These are like normal other libraries which you use in any other programming languages to implement extra things, okay, to implement advanced things. Definitely you have to call some third-party stuff. Any questions here? Okay, so let's talk about there is a module for regular expression also known as RE. Okay, there's a module for regular expression known as RE, and so we have covered up almost all which are required. Now, object-oriented programming, we know that we know that there are everything in Python is treated as objects. Okay, so if you print, let's say, if you print the type of this, like the list, okay, this tuple and these, you have the classes for each and everything. Okay, that's why in Python everything is an object. You have class integer, you have class list, you have class tuple, you have class dictionary. For everything, it is like this, and you can like use class keywords and these things by and define your classes here. Okay, again the same concept which you have everywhere, by using a keyword class, giving a name of the class, colon, and then your whatever you want, and then you can just create your object via the class name. Now one important thing here is the attributes. Like there in other languages we have constructors, right? So here we have also this special method, we call it as, we don't call it as a constructor here, but works like similarly. You define it as a init method, okay, which is again like your constructor only, and inside this you pass two parameters. One is self, another like whatever the argument which you want to pass or whatever the attribute you want to pass. So now for this, basically this you are defining the attribute with the help of this self keyword here. Okay, this is to initialize, this method is used to initialize the attributes of the objects, okay, of an object of a class. So use self.breed equal to breed. Now what it will do, like it will basically, if you define a value here, okay, now yeah, see normally in Java, if you define a class ABC, at the end what you do, like you write ABCO equal to new OBC, right? This is how you define the object. And now if you have to pass and call any method, so you say that OBO dot XYZ, and you call those method, and if there is any argument you call those like this, right? So this works like this only, kind of a similar way, where you are passing the value of from the constructor here, okay, from this init methods, and then you can utilize like this SAM is what, this SAM is nothing like the way object name is here, so it is the same here, and you can call them to these methods, you can call them attribute directly to call to get the value. So did you guys understood the concept of this attribute and these things?
Sachin, here dog is the class name, breed is the method, and self is the object, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, Umang, Vaibhav, you guys got the concept?
Yeah, somewhere.
Okay. So the concept is quite same. Classes, mostly in scripting we don't use classes. In DevOps mostly we write scripts only. We don't write end-to-end programs. So we don't have to worry much about that. From an understanding perspective it is there. But in DevOps you might not be using this much detailed of Python which we are talking about, because there you do the Python, or there you whatever the scripts we might be using or we might be writing it. So my basically goal is to not write shell scripts and to write Python. The reason, because Python is very much popular in market and people want Python. So wherever we will have the shell scripts, so I will try to avoid it and try to replace it by the Python wherever it is possible in the our further DevOps sessions. Okay. Okay. Any question before I move to the some of the practical examples? No. Okay. So fine.